Hello everyone, and welcome to my presentation of my production portfolio tracks, Coming Home and Monster. Coming Home was a personal tribute to the analog world of the 1960s and 70s, taking cues from iconic artists like the Beatles, Pink Floyd, and Simon and Garfunkel, with hints of jazz thrown in. From the start, my aim was clear: craft a track that feels like it belongs in the vintage era. That meant paying close attention to the choice of gear and mics, recording techniques, and post-production processes. The music and lyrics for Coming Home were written by me towards the end of 2024. It all started on an acoustic guitar, and the vision was to capture the feeling of returning home after being away for a long time.
Oh yeah, baby. All right, let's go.
I recorded the drums in room 203 and routed them through the Audient desk in room 204. My main influence was Ringo Starr. His philosophy of serving the song resonated with me, so I kept the drumming simple and intentional. To get an authentic sound, I muted the snare and toms with tea towels, a classic trick Ringo used. For mics, I went vintage: Audio-Technica 4080 ribbons as overheads, a Neumann U87 on the snare, TLM 103 on the hi-hat, and a Sennheiser 421 and SM57 on the toms. The kick, a Shure Beta 52. I also added an Aston Spirit mic, set to omnidirectional to capture room ambience. I processed the drums with Waves vintage plugins, including API compression and EQ to subtly control dynamics and brighten the sound. For the bass guitar, I was inspired by Paul McCartney's supportive and melodic playing. I recorded at home using a Fender Jazz-style bass and a 60s amp sim in Logic. Recording direct through a Focusrite gave me a clean slate. Then I colored the sound using MPI console saturation and Pultec style EQ, boosting around 100 Hz for some warmth. I used the Logic Field Effects transistor compressor to control the dynamics and added a vintage CL-2A compressor on top for color and extra control. For acoustic guitar, I attempted to emulate Phil Spector's wall of sound, particularly from All Things Must Pass. I layered several acoustic guitar tracks, a finger-picked part for warmth and a plectrum-picked part for brightness in verse 1, and a warm and bright acoustic guitar throughout the rest of the song, both strummed with a plectrum. The warm guitar was recorded in room 201 through the Audient desk using Neumann KM184s and a Peluso R14 ribbon mic, placed about 8 feet away for room tone. The bright guitar was recorded in 303 through the SSL console with an AKG C414 for a contrasting tone. I used optical compression to glue the guitars subtly without losing dynamics, and they were further enhanced with Neve-style vintage EQ. For electric guitar, I used a Fender Strat, playing fingerstyle for warmth with lots of slides for a laid-back, jazzy feel. I close mic'd my Fender Deluxe Reverb amp with an SM57 and placed a Peluso ribbon mic 3 feet back to create a sense of space. To make the guitar feel dreamy and slightly psychedelic, I used hardware reverb from the Lexicon MX400 and added tape delay. I used a CLA-76 compressor to add some punch. Originally, I wanted to record an acoustic piano, but the one in room 203 was out of tune and noisy. The one in 204 was too bright for my taste. So I used my Nord Stage 3, recorded direct through the Focusrite, and I applied analog-style processing afterwards, including compression and Neve-style EQ. I added saturation with the Desk Emulation plugin. For vocals, the main goal was to create dynamic contrast, intimate vocals in the verses and spacious choir-like harmonies in the choruses. The harmonies themselves were composed spontaneously during tracking. What started as simple doubling became a full 3-part harmony, inspired by the chamber echo sound in The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel. I double-tracked each harmony, panned them wide, and added Abbey Road reverb to create an ethereal, vintage atmosphere. Compression was layered: CL-2A for warmth and a Fairchild 670 to tame transients. EQ was tailored for each vocal to add some brightness without sounding harsh. My aim was to create a track that sounded like it was made in the golden era of analog production. By focusing on vintage gear emulations, thoughtful mic placements, and analog-style mixing choices, I think I succeeded in delivering a track that evokes nostalgia. However, I feel I could have improved upon some of the tonal choices, such as the lead guitar, possibly using my Epiphone Les Paul or an EQ pedal to create a warmer jazz tone. Additionally, it probably would have been better to use different acoustic guitars. I also would prefer a less muffled kick sound and should have removed the dampening during recording. But overall, I think the blend of jazz chords, layered acoustics, and saturated textures makes Coming Home feel, well, like home.